Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by my friend Elliot Grigg. We are previewing the Women's World Welterweight title fight this weekend in Orlando. We obviously looked at Joyce Zhang too. We've also looked at Hitchens Zepeda, which is on the same card as this. This time it's Sandy Ryan and Jessica McCaskill who are fighting for three of the recognised world welterweight titles. Elliot, thanks for joining me, mate. Looking forward to this fight. Don't know about you. Two of the top three, four, five female welterweights in the world. So my first question to you is simple: is the winner of this fight the number one at welterweight in the world, or is there someone else that you think maybe is a little bit better? What do you think?
Well, thank you very much for having me. And again, you like to throw challenges out, and I feel like if I get through this video, I'll almost have a claim to being sort of undisputed myself. But I feel tough question starting, frankly, very tough question starting, and I suppose the question really would depend on, I suppose, if we're characterising Natasha Jonas in a welterweight, Mikaela in a welterweight. For me, I mean, it could be British bias, but I would possibly lean towards Natasha Jonas actually being the best welterweight currently in the world, frankly. But I think looking at the rankings, obviously, she's around there with McCaskill as well. I think McCaskill's actually ranked above her slightly. But I would just have, I actually personally have Jonas just on her. I mean, she's 39 now, but seems to be kind of aging tremendously when it comes to sort of a professional boxing career. 14-2 record with 9 KOs. We've seen obviously, fight Katie Taylor as well, who's obviously, behind Taylor and stuff. So, and Mikaela Mayer, to be honest with you, having seen Mayer, obviously, we're very unlucky in what happened against Baumgartner, who's obviously since then has had her own issues. But I feel like, whether she'd be able to translate that up at that division, I don't necessarily know. So I'd say Jonas, then I'd probably say McCaskill, then I might have Mayer sort of floating around there personally for me. But Jonas just edges McCaskill in my opinion.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Obviously, you mentioned we saw Mikaela Mayer, in action there in the Smith Eubank 2 undercard. I think that was her first fight, maybe about welterweight. I know she definitely went up a division or two there. Won comfortably on points, but um, I don't know. I don't know whether I'd say her as number one. I think I kind of agree with you. Obviously, Jonas was up at super welter. Now then won the world title down at welter. So you think that Jonas is obviously the more proven world champion, I suppose. But then you look at McCaskill, and she did hold all the belts. Obviously, she had that win over Celia Brackhouse as well. She kind of comprehensively beat her. McCaskill, obviously, like, a lot longer ago in her career, also fought Katie Taylor. You look at Sandy Ryan, she had that loss, which was a kind of a shock defeat. And then she bounced back with a win in the rematch, and then has gone on to win world title in her last fight. I suppose when you mentioned that you had Jonas at number one, then you had McCaskill, and then you had kind of Meyer. Is that am I correct in assuming then that you feel that McCaskill, you kind of favour her in this one against Sandy Ryan?
Oh, you are correct. You are correct there. I do favour McCaskill in this fight. I mean, obviously she's a bit more, I suppose, is seasoned in that sense as well. I feel like losing, even though I was super light, against sort of Chantal Cameron, sorry, over UD isn't necessarily about, like, I rate Chantal Cameron frankly as well, so I don't think there's any sort of shame in that. I just feel like Sandy Ryan's, she's 6-1, not necessarily had the same, not necessarily gotten that same sort of conveyor belt of like known opponents yet. I feel like happens in women's boxing. It's not a criticism of women's boxing, but I feel like the pool is smaller, so end up getting these kind of like divisional crossovers that you don't necessarily get at the same way in men's boxing. And she's yet to kind of fully get on that conveyor belt that we've seen McCaskill kind of access in the fight she's had. So I do just actually I do think McCaskill will win. Given I don't know if you want me to leap into prediction mode at this point, but I feel it's going to go the distance, Paul. To be perfectly honest with you, I feel like I'm that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking McCaskill points, 5 KOs, in 12 victories. I just feel like she's a long reach as well. I'm favouring her on points.
Yeah, fair enough. You've gone straight in with a prediction, and do you know what? I can't dispute what you've said. You've backed up your point well there. However, our first disagreement,
Yeah, there we go.
I believe Sandy Ryan's going to win this. I think we've potentially seen the best of Jessica McCaskill in her career. I'm not saying she's like massively on the slide or anything, but I just think that she's probably peaked for me. And the only thing is, obviously, I'll mention is that Sandy Ryan, if it does go the distance, you hate to say it, but kind of the elephant in the room. Will she get a decision in America? Depends how she fights. But then again, at the same time, obviously, it's on a Matchroom the zone kind of card. So Sandy Ryan's the Matchroom fighter. So then you're like it's in America. McCaskill will favor, but then it's on the zone Matchroom card. Sandy Ryan will get favored on the card. So I don't know. I think the thing I definitely agree with you on is that it's going the distance. I don't see there being a stoppage in this fight. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna slightly edge it towards Sandy Ryan to be quite honest. And just but kind of before we finish, I know we've mentioned the likes of Mikaela Meyer and Natasha Jonas and those other names. But what I'm going to quickly do is, and I just want named answers. Don't even need to go into why. But just named answers. I'm going to say Sandy Ryan wins this fight. She fights Natasha Jonas next. Who wins?
Jonas.
Similarly, she wins and maybe fights Mikaela Meyer in a defense. Who wins?
Maya.
Interesting. And then the same for McCaskill. McCaskill fights Natasha Jonas next. What's happening?
Jonas wins.
And then McCaskill fights Meyer. What happens?
McCaskill, I think. On size.
Interesting.
On the size and reach, I think.
Interesting. So you've definitely got McCaskill and Jonas as your number one and two. So yeah, hopefully, if you are indeed correct and McCaskill wins, that's kind of the fight we want, really, isn't it? Um,
Absolutely.
all the belts at welterweight, I think it would be, wouldn't it? McCaskill Jonas, but yeah, intriguing fights for me, mate. I think this was a bit slightly different. I favour Sandy Ryan in this particular fight against McCaskill. Um, I favour Sandy Ryan to beat Mikaela Meyer. Um, McCaskill against Meyer. Oh, I'd probably favour Meyer, and then against Jonas. Yeah, I might agree with you. I think Tasha Jonas is maybe the best still. Um, definitely. I think again it depends on the manner of victory and defeat. Obviously, at the weekend, like Sandy Ryan's only had 7 fights, but say she comes out and schools Jessica McCaskill, all of a sudden are you saying, "Oh, Sandy Ryan's number one." It's interesting.
Mhm.
Again, as I said, for the Hitchens Zapita fight, we'll find out a lot more. The next day comes Sunday. But yeah, enjoyed that chat, mate. I think this is a great fight. We've got some good action this weekend. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this. And next week, suppose will I be bragging going for Sandy Ryan, or will you be bragging going for McCaskill? Well, you'll have to join us next week, guys, to find out. But once again, thanks for tuning in and listening to the content. We've got plenty more on the channel. As I mentioned, some more previews we've looked at this weekend, looking at Joyce against Zhang too, obviously Hitchens Zapita as well as we've got big fight breakdowns on the channel. Lots of big fights coming up in the UK and in the US in the next few weeks. So obviously got next week's looking at all Canelo, Charlo. We've got Wood, Warrington after that. We've got lots of big fights coming up. So yeah, be sure to stay tuned, guys, and check out the rest of the content on the channel. Elliot, thanks very much for joining me, mate, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much, guy, mate. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. And yeah, like I said, one of us will be right, one of us will be wrong, and one of us will, I suppose, for at least a week, will avoid the criticism that comes with our next on the line. But yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Enjoyed that chat, and yeah, like I said, thank you very much, guys, for watching.